Welcome to PC Woods Kids Tech Talk. Today we're looking at a graphics card that is meant for ultimate 1080p gaming. The PowerColor RX 5600 XT from the Red Dragon series. That's right, I've got here the box. Look at that Red Dragon right there, beautiful. 6 gigs of GDDR6, more than enough to play things on ultimate settings. Yes, it's using the latest 7 nanometer architecture, the RDNA architecture from AMD, and packed with features, it's going to give you the best visuals for volumetric lighting, the motion blur effects, the depth of field. You're going to be able to adjust a lot of things in the Radeon graphics settings, such as the anti-lag. You can customize some of these to give it a little bit of a boost even further, and adjust, the image sharpening, the fidelity effects, all of that in the graphics settings. Here are the specs. Pause the screen at any time if I'm going a little bit too fast for you. Again, this comes already pre-overclocked out of the factory. No need to do a BIOS update. This one has the latest one on it, so it's good to go. You're going to get the most you can out of this graphics card. And, well, what can I say? You want to hook up a couple monitors to this one? Sure, no problem. You can do that as well. Now, what I love about it is that it's a small graphics card. It doesn't require a lot of system requirements. 500 watt power supply, you're good to go. Compared to previous generations graphics cards such as the RX 590 GPU, we're expecting a boost in performance for sure based on the power consumption. And in the box, you're just going to get the manual. Pretty simple, straightforward. Now, look at these beautiful fans. Large fans, and around it you got this nice shiny rim on it, like a chrome rim, which is very nice. These two fans are actually quite large. They're 100 millimeters in size. So that kind of makes it a little bit tall, but it's not a very wide, bulky card when you think about it. Straightforward, nothing fancy. 8-pin power connector on one side, you can see it right there. And then on the opposite side of the card, we've got the BIOS switch in case you want to run this on silent mode. Okay, so you can run it on silent mode, decreases the GPU core clock speeds. What can I say? I mean, you can run this on overclock mode all the time because, it's got great heat pipes, 6 millimeter heat pipes, 5 of them going from one end to the other. You can see there dissipate the heat, and then of course it's going to blow out the back of your case, so that's great. A nice backplate, look at that, with the Red Dragon embossed there on the side, beautiful. So this is going to give it strength, rigidity, and great for looks. Even adds a little bit more additional cooling. And there says BIOS, OC, and silent. That's the switch there on the side, so you know which mode you have it on. Now here you can connect up to 4 monitors. You can see right there 3 display ports, 1 HDMI. That's pretty much standard. And well, I like this card so far. I mean, I like the fact that they put a lot of cooling effect in here, and they packed it in for a nice little mainstream card. Now here it is in my system. I'm keeping the red theme, going with the Red Dragon, so I love it. It kind of matches right there. The test system that I have is not going to give it any problems, no bottlenecks. It's going to give it the strength that it needs to really shine on this Navi 10 GPU, this latest generation GPU. PowerColor here has positioned itself very nicely by adding 6 gigs of that GDDR6 memory. Of course, it's going to use the latest PCI Express 4.0 board, or even a previous generation 3.0 is good too. And, well, being only 192-bit bus width and bandwidth, you can see there, it's actually on the higher mid-range, to be honest. It's not on the entry-low level. This is a higher mid-range card. I like it. So far, it's going to give you the ultimate 1080p gaming and some decent 2K gaming as well. You can see there the base gaming clock, the memory, and the boost. Okay, so in case you're wondering about that, they're very generous on those as well, so very nice. And, well, there is the system that I'm running it on. As you can see there, I'm running this at 4 gigahertz. And we're really going to put this to the test now. These are the values if you run it on silent mode, by the way, in case you're wondering about that. Okay. Temperatures on idle when it's not doing nothing is basically roughly around 34 degrees Celsius, maybe even less. Okay, depending on your ambient temperature. The actual chip, the GPU chip, only uses about 7 watts itself. The card itself will use more wattage, right, with the VRMs and everything in it, if you count all of that in there. Basically, when I'm recording the screen right now, temperatures go up to maybe 40, 41 degrees Celsius. If I run this at full load, depending on what you're running, it can go up to 57, 60 degrees Celsius, roughly around there on heavy use, right? Now, I've got tons of games here to try this on. Obviously, the Tom Clancy Breakpoint, one of my favorites here, running it on high settings for the 2K mode. And of course, you know, you might have to adjust this depending on what graphic settings you want. This card, again, great for 1080p. And it shows, right, with the average frames per second being so high there at 87 frames per second with a maximum of 163. Really smooth results at 1080p, but don't get me wrong, you can run this at 2K as well, just to lower the settings a little bit. On Anthem, same deal, right? I'm trying to keep this on the higher settings, but depending on the game, you can actually run it on Ultra. So you got to just try a little bit here and there and see which games can you, which ones can't you, and then decrease the settings according, you know, to your graphics card and the gaming requirements. Now, when it comes to 1080p, run it at full-blown Ultra, no holds bar on this one. On Far Cry 5, you can see here I've got on the left column the 2K and on the right column the 1080, but I'm running them both on Ultra, okay? So not holding anything back on there. And when it comes to the results, on average on 2K, 81 frames per second, on average at 1080p, 95 frames per second, and the maximum 125 frames per second for 1080p. So definitely a huge jump in performance there, running it at 1080p. So it's definitely a killer right there. And keep this in mind, because a lot of you, you know, you're on a budget, you don't want to spend too much, and this one is great, you know, even for playing some 2K gaming. Now, on the epic graphic settings for Fortnite, no holds bar again, 2K, we're running it, and 57 frames per second. Quite decent, not bad at all, actually. You know, you might not even notice the difference, to be honest. Sometimes when you're gaming, if there's any lag, it might be your network lag. It might be a pause or a stutter because of your network settings or something else, not necessarily the graphics card. So keep that in mind too. But here I am playing. Yes, that is me playing Fortnite, and at 1080p, well, I'm getting a higher frames per second. As you can see there, 61 frames per second with a max of 122. Wow. So there you have it. Great multiplayer gaming with Fortnite. Chapter 3, I believe, is coming out, so looking forward to that. Strange Brigade. Again, Ultra, having this maxed out, using the Vulkan API, right? So we're taking use of the graphics engine that AMD works really well with. And this one here is showing some great results at 2K using the Ultra graphics setting. 61 frames per second, very smooth, love it. No complaints from me. You know, to be honest, that's actually pretty respectable considering that this is an entry-level graphics card. Keep that in mind, right? This is not a very expensive graphics card compared to something else that you might be looking out there from NVIDIA, for example. So on 1080p, well, what can I say? 88 frames per second, up to 123 roughly, you know, give or take a couple frames per second depending on your system and what CPU and not, and whatever you have installed. These are obviously approximate. You know, some systems might get more, some might get a little bit less, but you get a good idea. There's consistency here with this card. Great 1080p gaming, and some 2K gaming is definitely possible as well. Now, on Battlefield 5, one of my favorite games, again, running it at DirectX 12, and on the high settings, you can see here how smooth it is. Yes, very nice, and no complaints from me here. You know, I'm not expecting to run things on the highest ultra settings at 2K, but at 1080p, yes I am. And there you have it, 96 frames per second and maximum 237. Wow, that really is super high results there, and very pleased to show you that. So again, I didn't want you guys to think that this is just another gimmick. This card really works well at 1080p, and it is something to think about, especially if you're looking at the NVIDIA card like a, I don't know, a GTX 1650, for example, that only has 4 gigs of GDR memory in it. That's not going to be enough, right? This one really can give you that extra boost, that extra capability to running things at higher graphic settings and higher resolutions as well. So there you have it. Now, what can I tell you with the synthetic benchmarks, the other types of benchmarks? Well, when I ran the Time Spy from 3D Mark, it said basically that my results were the same as a whole bunch of other people within the same range. So that's pretty good to know that I'm getting consistent results. And it basically placed the system in the mid-range, which also makes sense because this is a mid-range graphics card. So that's where it's supposed to be, more or less. We're not, you know, breaking the bank and spending a lot of money. By the way, I'll add the latest pricing in the description below. On the Performance Test 9.0, same deal, right? If you're comparing this to a previous generation like the RX 580 or the RX 590, this is going to do obviously way better than that. It's even doing better, like it says here, in these results online than these other previous generation graphics cards as well. So there you have it. If you're looking to do an upgrade, for example, of your current graphics card and you want something much faster but you don't want to break the bank, PowerColor has it for you here, and I definitely recommend the Red Dragon series. Very nice. I'd like to thank PowerColor and AMD for providing it. Comment below, let me know what you think, and again, thank you for watching.